We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went.
Hey folks, it's me, Ryan Burns, and today I want to talk to you about Florence Schaffner and some of the things that she said in the years after the hijacking to various news media. Now, Flo didn't talk much to the media, but we do have a couple articles where she did talk to a few journalists, and she did talk to Jeffrey Gray for the book Skyjack. A few days ago on my Facebook group, a fellow investigator named Stephanie Farmer found an article out of the Salt Lake City Tribune in 1986 where a journalist met up with Florence Schaffner at a diner in Salt Lake City, I guess, called D.B. Cooper's. In this article, Flo said some things that weren't reported anywhere else. She said that Cooper was wearing makeup. She said that she got him coffee. These are not things that she said back in 1971. In fact, she said the opposite. All the stewardesses said he was not wearing makeup. So I don't know where she came up with that or what she's remembering, but maybe it's true. Who knows? She also said that she got Cooper coffee, which there's nothing in the FBI files about that. She didn't say anything about that to anybody back in 1971. She did say that she made him a bourbon and 7-Up, but nothing about getting him a coffee at a later date. But the main thing is this article reminded me of a previous article where Florence Schaffner spoke to a member of what I call the Jack Kofelt grift. Now, I'll get into them on another video, but this was the first suspect grift. What I mean by a suspect grift is trying to profit off of having a suspect. This was a father and son team who were doing this at the time. They knew of an old ex-con named Jack Kofelt who had contacted them and said he was D.B. Cooper, and they went on this expedition with him up to Mount Hood, which of course is not where Cooper jumped, looking for Cooper's loot with Jack Kofelt. But Jack Kofelt was dead by the late 70s. He had drank himself to death out in Hawaii. They tried to sell this story to the media throughout the late 70s, and 60 Minutes was even going to do a story on it, but they put the kibosh on it. There was a producer named Dirk Summers who was going to make a movie out of the Jack Kofelt thing, but of course the FBI knew that Kofelt was not Cooper, and they said as much to these Hollywood producers who called and said, hey, what's going on with this Kofelt guy? They said, well, he's not Cooper. So we fast forward to 1983, and Byron Brown, who is the son of this father-son duo, writes an article for a magazine called The Las Vegan. Now, in this article, it's a long-form article. He says that he tracked down Florence Schaffner, which he did actually do this. This is in the FBI files. It is reported that he did track her down, and they did have a discussion, and the FBI were not too happy about it. But the things that Flo says in this article are just from left field, essentially. They are very much in line with the Kofelt grift. So it's hard to make sense of what's true and what's not. But the question is, Flo was alive at the time, and Flo is still alive now. So would he risk misquoting her so deliberately like this? I don't know. But let's go through some of the things that Flo says in this article that are just really, like I said, out from left field. So I'm going to read this part directly from the article, okay? Immediately after the crime, she dropped completely out of sight, and the public soon forgot or was never even aware that for over 2 hours that night, she dutifully attended the terribly lonesome man, as she described Cooper to me, rushing to bring him coffee and snacks, listening politely to his sad, vague ramblings, suggestive of a checkered past, and innocently wishing him, good luck. I hope you make it. Is there anything more that I can do for you? She remembers asking Cooper when the plane finally touched down in Seattle. Do you want me to leave now, or would you like me to stay with you? Almost no one was aware that Florence actually believed that she herself, instead of Tina Mucklow, should have remained with Cooper as his hostage when the plane headed south from Seattle towards Reno, because she felt that she had grown to know and understand him in however strange a way. Quote, he told me, like a spirit, she said with poignant nostalgia in her voice, that I probably sat beside him somewhere else 100 years ago. Florence, it is true, developed a profound sympathy for the lonely man while trying to comfort him in the back of the plane. Okay, now anybody who knows anything about the D.B. Cooper case knows that it was Tina Mucklow, not Florence Schaffner, who spent all this time with Cooper. Here we have Florence Schaffner saying that Cooper told her that they had probably sat beside each other somewhere 100 years ago. She talks about how she felt that she had grown to know and understand him. Flo's interaction with Cooper was very brief. Essentially, she greeted him as he boarded the plane. She fixed his drink, brought his change back to him. He handed her the note. She read the note. She sat down beside him. She took down his ransom demands. She went to the cockpit and stayed there until the plane landed. Okay, she did not sit with Cooper at any point ever after that. Okay, she sat next to Cooper for probably 2 or 3 minutes, tops. Okay, when the plane lands, she comes to the back and kind of loiters around and makes sure that no passengers come back toward Cooper. But again, there's no indication that she's ever interacting with Cooper after that point, aside from going back there and saying, hey, can I go, please? That is true. Her and Alice Hancock, one of the other stewardesses, went back there and said, hey, can we go? Also, Flo had to come back on the plane after she left because she had left her purse back behind Cooper. So she did interact with him briefly during that time. And she said, can I get my purse? And he said, sure, I won't bite. So for Flo to say that she developed this bond with him and said that she listened to his sad, vague ramblings suggestive of a checkered past, that is totally inconsistent with what we know about her role in the hijacking. Although I guess there is one interaction with Cooper and Flo that I forgot to mention, and that's when Cooper asked her to pick up the money bag. He was teasing her when she came back to ask if they could leave. He said, hey, check out all this money in my bag. Isn't it heavy? And he made her pick it up. And she goes, yeah, of course. Yeah, fine. This is heavy. Yes, whatever. And she felt patronized by him at that point. So for her to say that she was bringing him snacks and offering him coffee and like waiting on him hand and foot and stuff, that just doesn't ring true to me at all, because Flo was pretty antagonistic toward Cooper. She did not like Cooper. I mean, we can look at the so-called Dracula sketch that she made in 1989 for Unsolved Mysteries. Flo was terrified of Cooper. So this version of Cooper is not the Cooper that Flo ever described anywhere else. Another odd thing that she says in this article is that, quote, Cooper took off his street shoes and put on a pair of boots. Now that seems like something you would have told the FBI back in 1971, right? Did Tina not see this happen? Surely she would have reported this. Now, again, anything's possible. Just because something is not in the FBI files from 1971 doesn't mean it didn't happen. And it could have been that Cooper had boots inside his mystery bag. That could be what was in there. But again, that just seems like a detail that Flo at the time would have mentioned to the FBI. And if not Flo, then Tina or Alice, who were back there too, would have mentioned him unearthing a pair of boots from his mystery bag and putting them on, right? That just doesn't ring true to me. But now this is where it gets really weird. And this is where I start wondering if this was just made up as part of this Kofelt grift to put words in her mouth in this article that aligned with this Jack Kofelt thing. According to Florence, Cooper was, just as Kofelt had said, the last person to board the plane at Portland. Florence said that she actually had to fetch him from where he was peering out the terminal windows and lead him to the entrance of the plane. Now, that is so preposterous to me that Flo actually said that it's almost like that right there is where this article loses all credibility for me to think this is actually Flo saying all these things. But again, Flo could have sued this guy for just making up quotes, I would think. I mean, she wasn't a public figure. You can't just misquote someone like this. But regardless, this is not at all what happened that night. Flo said to the FBI that night that Cooper was the second to last person to board the plane at Portland, and that he did not appear suspicious or attract her attention at all as he boarded the plane. You would think that she would mention that she had to go get DB Cooper, or Dan Cooper, or the hijacker, as she would have called him, out of the terminal, who was just loitering, scared to go on the plane. What is this? This just stinks to high heaven to me. Continuing with the weirdness, it says here, and she also recalled that he wore white gloves, verifying Kofelt's claim that he wore gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints. Okay, now again, if Cooper's wearing gloves, surely to God that would have been reported in 1971 by Flo or Alice or Tina or Bill Mitchell, the passenger who was sitting 5 feet from Cooper. You know, Bill's already looking at Cooper as this weird guy wearing sunglasses inside of a plane at night. I would think if the guy was wearing white gloves, that would have really stuck out, right? So, like I said, this just almost, I just really have a hard time thinking that this is actually Flo's words. It just seems like maybe the author is taking crazy liberties and quoting Flo accurately sometimes, but just inventing quotes. Because as I said, I just can't imagine Cooper wearing white gloves and nobody commenting on that until 1983. So what's the verdict on all of this? Honestly, I don't really know. I think that it's half truth and have falsehoods. It's interesting that the things that are, to me, patently false are part of the Jack Cofield story, right? These are the grifting angles. This bit about having to be fetched from the terminal, that's a Cofield thing, and this white gloves, that's a Cofield thing. So it does seem like very self-serving, these things that are made up. So I just can't imagine Flo saying these things, right? That just seems strange that she would mention it 12 years later, but not mention it the night of the hijacking, that he put boots on, that he wore white gloves, that she had to go get him from the terminal. I just can't buy that. But then again, this bit about coffee, that rings true because we have her saying in 1986 to this reporter in Salt Lake City that she gave Cooper coffee. Now, I don't know when that would have been. After the plane landed, as soon as the parachutes came aboard and the money came aboard, Cooper was at work MacGyvering this money bag thing, cutting shroud lines out of the parachute, things like this. So I don't know when he would have had time to just sit down and chill and have a cup of coffee. And again, we have Tina Mucklow saying that she offered Cooper refreshments multiple times and he rejected these every time she offered it. So I don't want to call Flo a liar, obviously. These are her memories, but are they true or not? I don't know, but it's possible. Like I said, the coffee thing is possible, but what is not possible is Cooper having to be dragged from the terminal by Flo Schaffner. That is ridiculous. And I think the white gloves thing is ridiculous. Now, the boots thing, maybe, but again, that's just a detail that I feel like the stewardesses would have mentioned in 1971. Anyway, so Flo, interesting witness saying these things years later, what's true, what's not. This is the problem with suspect grifts, okay, is they will twist the truth to promote a suspect, and that is not cool by me. Okay, folks, well, that's all I've got for today, so like and subscribe and all that YouTube-y stuff, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.